Good morning, Marshall community. So I'm going to continue our figurative language journey with Peter Pan. We are on chapter 5. We are reading The Island Come True. Feeling that Peter was on his way back, the Neverland had woken to life. We ought to use the pluperfect and say wakened, but woke is better and was always used by Peter. In his absence, things are usually quiet on the island. The fairies take an hour longer in the morning, and the beasts attend to their young. The redskins feed heavily for 6 days and a night. And when pirates and lost boys meet, they merely bite their thumbs at each other. But with the coming of Peter, who hates lethargy, they are all underway again. So what do we think lethargy means? Is there a lot of activity or not a lot of activity when Peter is gone? If you put your ear to the ground now, you could hear the whole island seething with life. What does seething mean? Is it filling up? On this evening, the chief forces of the island were disposed as follows. The lost boys were out looking for Peter. The pirates were out looking for the lost boys. The redskins were out looking for the pirates, and the beasts were out looking for the redskins. They were going round and round the island, but they did not want to meet because all were going at the same rate. All wanted blood except the boys, who liked it as a rule, but tonight were out to greet their captain. The boys on the island vary, of course, in numbers, according as they get killed and so on. And when they seem to be growing up, which is against the rules, Peter thins them out. But at this time there were 6 of them, counting the twins as 2. Let us pretend to lie here among the sugar cane and watch them as they steal by in single file. Steal by. Are they actually stealing? Each with his hand out on his dagger. They are forbidden by Peter to look in the least like him. They wear the skins of the bears slain by themselves, in which they are so round and furry that when they fall, they roll. They have therefore become very sure-footed. Sure-footed. The first to pass is Toodles, not the least brave, but the most unfortunate of all that gallant band. He had been in fewer adventures than any of them because the big things constantly happened just when he had stepped round the corner. All would be quiet, and he would take the opportunity of going far off to gather a few sticks for firewood. Then, when he returned, the other would be sweeping up the blood. This ill luck had given a gentle melancholy to his countenance. So he feels sad. Why do we think he feels sad? But instead of souring his nature, it had sweetened it, and he was quite the humblest of the boys. Poor kind Toodles, there is danger in the air for you tonight. Take care, lest an adventure is now offered you, which, if accepted, will plunge you in deepest woe. Toodles, the fairy Tink, who is bent on mischief this night, is looking for a tool. She thinks you are the most easily tricked of the boys. Ware Tinkerbell, beware. Would that he could hear us, but we are not really on the island, and he passes by biting his knuckles. Next comes Nibs, the gay and debonair, followed by Slightly, who cuts whistles out of the trees and dances ecstatically to his own tunes. Slightly is the most conceited of the boys. He thinks he remembers the days before he was lost, with their manners and customs, and this has given his nose an offensive tilt. So what do we think this means? Curly is 4th. He is a pickle, And so often he has had to deliver up his person when Peter said sternly, "Stand forth the one who did this." And now at the command he stands forth automatically, whether he has done it or not. So he is always the one causing trouble. Last came the twins, who cannot be described, but we should be sure to be describing the wrong one. Peter never quite knew what the twins were, and his band was not allowed to know anything that he did not know. So these two were always vague about themselves and did their best to give satisfaction by keeping close together in an apologetic way. The boys vanish in the gloom. After a pause, but not a long pause, for things go briskly on the island, come the pirates in their track. We hear them before we can see them. It is always the same dreadful song. "Avast belay, yo-ho, heave to, a-pirating we go, and if we've parted by a shot, we're sure to meet below." A more villainous looking lot never hung in a row on execution dock. Villainous. Villainous. What do we think villainous sounds like? Does it sound like the word villain? It's a villain. Here, a little in advance, ever and again with his head to the ground listening, his great arms bare, pieces of 8 in his ears as ornaments, or pieces of 8 are money. So is the handsome Italian Cecco, who cut his name in letters of blood on the back of the governor of the prison at Gao. So is he tough? I would say so. The gigantic behind him has had many names since he dropped the one with the which dusky mothers still terrify their children on the banks of the Guadiomo. Here is Bill Jukes. Every inch of him tattooed. The same Bill Jukes who got 6 dozen on the walrus from Flint before he would drop the bag of Mordores. And Cookson, said to be Black Murphy's brother, but this was never proved. And Gentleman Starkey, once an usher in public school, and still dainty in his ways of killing. And Skylights, Morgan's Skylights, and the Irish bosom Smee, an oddly genial man. So this is our pirate crew. Now we're talking about Smee, who stabbed, as so to speak, without offense. So does he feel sorry about it? And was the only nonconformist in Hook's crew. What is a nonconformist? What does it mean to conform? It's to take your form and make it together like someone else's. So if he's a nonconformist, he's not like the others in Hook's crew. And Noodler, whose hands were fixed on backwards, and Ropt Mullins, and Alf Mason, and many other ruffian long known and feared on the Spanish Main. In the midst of them, the largest in that dark setting, reclined James Hook, or as he wrote himself, J.A.S. Hook, of whom it is said he was the only man that Sea Cook feared. He lay at his ease in a rough chariot, drawn and propelled by his men. Instead of a right hand, he had an iron hook, which ever and anon he encouraged them to increase their pace. As dogs, this terrible man treated and addressed them. As dogs. That's our comparison. What is this called? Our comparison? Using like or as? What is he comparing the dogs to? The terrible man treated and addressed them as as dogs they obeyed him. In person he was cadaverous and black-avised. His hair was dressed in long curls, which at a little distance looked like black candles, and gave a singularly threatening expression to his handsome countenance. His eyes were of the blue of the forget-me-not. A forget-me-not is a flower, and of a profound melancholy, save when he was plunging his hook into you, at which time 2 red spots appeared in them and lit them up horribly. Lit them up. Do they actually light? They light? What are they trying to say? What do the red spots show he's feeling? In manner, some of the grand seigneur still clung to him, so that he even ripped you up with an air, and I have been told he was a raconteur of repute. He was never more sinister than when he was most polite, which is probably the truest test of breeding, and the elegance of his diction, even when he was swearing, knew no less than the distinction of his demeanor, showed him one of a different cast from his crew. So how are they describing Hook? What makes him different from the rest of the pirates? He was a man of indomitable courage. It was said that the only thing he shied at was the sight of his own blood, which was thick and of an unusual color. In dress, he somewhat aped the attire associated with the name of Charles II. So who is Charles II? Is he a king? So how does Hook dress if he aped the attire? What do we say apes do? Having heard it said in some earlier period of his career that he bore a strange resemblance to the ill-fated Stuarts, which were a royal family, in his mouth he had holder of his own contrivance, which enabled him to smoke 2 cigars at once. But undoubtedly, the grimmest part of him was his iron claw. Do we remember how he got his iron claw? Let us now kill a pirate to show Hook's method. Skylights will do. As they passed, Skylights lurches clumsily against him, ruffling his lace collar. The Hook shoots forth. There is a tearing sound and one screech, and then the body is kicked aside and the pirates pass on. He has not even taken the cigars from his mouth. Such is the terrible man against whom Peter Pan is pitted. What does it mean to be pitted against? Which will win? On the trail of the pirates, stealing noiselessly down the warpath. What does it mean to steal noiselessly? Are they actually stealing something? Which is not visible to inexperienced eyes, came the Redskins, every one of them with their eyes peeled. Their eyes peeled? So what does eyes peeled mean they're doing? Are they watching? They carry tomahawks and knives, and their bodies gleam with paint and oil. Strung around them are the scalps of boys as well as pirates, for these are the Pickaninny tribe, not to be confused with the soft-hearted Delawares or the Hurons. In the van, on all fours, is Great Big Little Panther, a brave of so many scalps that in his present position they somewhat impede his progress. Impede means to prevent. Bringing up the rear, the place of the greatest danger, comes Tiger Lily, proud, erect, a princess in her own right. She is the most beautiful of dusky Dianas and the belle of the Pickaninnies, coquettish, cold, amorous by turns. There is not a brave who would not have had the wayward thing to wife, but she staves off the altar with a hatchet. Observe how they pass over fallen twigs without making the slightest noise. The only sound to be heard is their somewhat heavy breathing. So Tiger Lily, what do we think Tiger Lily is like? The fact is that they are all a little fat just now after the heavy gorging. Gorging is they're eating a ton. But in time they will work it off. For the moment, however, it constitutes their chief danger. The redskins disappear as they have come, just like the shadows. Soon their place is taken by the beasts, a great motley procession, lions, tigers, bears, and the innumerable smaller savage things that flee from them. For every kind of beast, and more particularly all the man-eaters, live cheek by jowl on the favored island. Their tongues were hanging out, and they are hungry tonight. When they have passed, comes the last figure of all, a gigantic crocodile. We shall see for whom she is looking presently. The crocodile passes, but soon the boys appear again, for the procession must continue indefinitely until one of the parties stops or changes its pace. What is the procession? So a procession is a marching order. So we have 3 groups of people who are marching in order. Who are they? Who is first? Why are they in order? What is happening? Then quickly they will all be on top of one another. All are keeping a sharp lookout in front, but none suspects that the danger may be creeping up from behind. This shows how real the island was. The first to fall out of the moving circle was the boys. They flung themselves down on the sward close to their underground home. "I do wish Peter would come back," every one of them said nervously, though in height and still more in breadth. They were all larger than their captain. "I am the only one who is not afraid of pirates," Slightly said, in the tone that prevented his being a general favorite. He's the one who has an offensive tilt. But perhaps some distant sound disturbed him, for he added hastily, "But I wish he would come back and tell us he has heard anything more about Cinderella." They talked of Cinderella, and Toodles was confident that his mother must have been very like her. It was only in Peter's absence that they could speak of mothers. The subject was forbidden by them as silly. "All I remember about my mother," Nibs told them, "is that she often said to my father, 'Oh, how I wish I had a checkbook of my own. I don't know what a checkbook is, but I should just love to give my mother one.'" When they talked, they heard a distant sound. You or I, not being wild things of the woods, would have heard nothing. But they heard it, and it was a grim song. Yo-ho, yo-ho, the pirate life we go, the flag, a skull, and the bones, a merry hour and a hempen rope, and hey for Davy Jones. At once the lost boys, but where are they? They are no longer there. Rabbits could not have disappeared more quickly. So how did they disappear? Why did they disappear? I will tell you where they are, with the exception of Nibs, who has darted away. They are already in their home under the ground, a very delightful residence of whom we shall see a great deal soon. But how have they reached it? There is no entrance to be seen. Not so much as a large stone which was rolled away, or would disclose the mouth of a cave. Look closely, however, and you may note that there are 7 large trees, each with a hole in its hollow trunk as large as a boy. These are the 7 entrances to the homes under the ground, for which Hook has been searching in vain these many moons. Will he find it tonight? As the pirates advanced, the quick eye of Starkey sighted Nibs disappearing through the wood, and at once his pistol flashed out. But an iron claw gripped his shoulder. "Captain, let go!" he cried, writhing. But for the first time we hear the voice of Hook. It was a black voice. "Put back that pistol first," it said threateningly. "It was one of the boys you hate. I could have shot him dead. Aye, and the sound would have brought Tiger Lily's redskins upon us. Do you want to lose your scalp?
What's
Shall I after him, Captain, said pathetic Smee, and tickle him with my Johnny Corkscrew? Smee had pleasant names for everything, and his cutlass was Johnny Corkscrew, because he wriggled it in the wound. All right, and that is all for today. So we will continue reading tomorrow. For your follow-up work, I want you to go back and I want you to identify three, at least three, if you can do more, good for you, examples of figurative language. I spoke about a few of them, and some of them you might have picked up on your own. I also want you to identify who are the new characters that we've met. We've met quite a few new characters. We have our Lost Boys. What are their names? What are they like? We have our Pirates. And what are their names? What are they like? And we have the Redskins. We have a few of their names. What are they like? There's one main leader, and she's going to play a role in our story, so we need to know who she is. And then what is happening in the story. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I love you. I miss you, and I hope you have a great day.
Bye-bye.